A few years ago, I was at the Goodwood Festival of Speed, and I remember walking through the park and walking past a stand from a manufacturer called Genesis. And I remember just thinking, who are these guys? I've never heard of them before, yet they've got a whole lineup of cars on the stand. They've gone from nothing to having all of these different models. So then I looked into it, did a bit of research, and found out that Genesis are part of Hyundai. They were started in 2015 to take Hyundai into a more luxury car bracket, to go toe-to-toe with the likes of Lexus, which is Toyota's luxury car wing. And that kind of makes complete sense, really, because Hyundai have this heritage of making cars and making really good cars, but maybe their brand perception isn't able to stretch into that market. And since then, Genesis have been coming to market with some really cool and innovative cars. Now, the Hyundai group are based in South Korea, and I was in Seoul just a few months ago. And when you're there, you see Genesis all over the place, and they've got some cars that we don't see in the UK market. And I was really keen to try and get one on the channel. So here I am. Here is my first Genesis on the channel. Hey guys, and welcome to Petrol Ped, and welcome to the Genesis GV60 Sport Plus. It is a beautiful day today, and all the birds are out in full force, so lots of chirping in the background, but I quite like that. Now, Genesis have a range of both combustion engine cars and battery electric cars, and in the UK it's no surprise that they're focusing more on the battery electric side of things. And I chose the first car to test from the Genesis lineup as the GV60, and this is an all-electric platform. And I know for many of you this is the point where you turn off the video, but hang around a little bit longer, bear with me, because I think there's a really interesting story to tell with this car. Because I think from the outside, from a styling point of view, it's an absolute showstopper. I love the looks of this car. But underneath the skin, it's an interesting one too, because Hyundai and Kia, for me, make some of the best battery electric cars currently on the market. And the two best of those are the EV6 and the Ioniq 5. And guess what platform is underneath this GV60? Yep, the same platform. So underneath this car is basically an Ioniq 5 or EV6. Clearly the bodywork is different. The dimensions are a little bit different. This car's a bit shorter than both of those other two. So the foundations of this car are really strong. But before we walk round, I want to show you some of the little design touches that I absolutely love about the GV60 and actually just Genesis in general. First up, wheels. Now, this is the GV60 Sport Plus, the range topper. But I think this wheel design is one of the best looking I've seen in a long time. I will caveat that by saying I wouldn't want to clean it on a regular basis because it's such an intricate design. There's lots of little nooks and crannies for dirt to go. It would be an absolute nightmare to clean. But beautiful wheel design, 21-inch wheels, and it's also shod with Michelin Pilot Sport EV tyres, so it has the best sidewall in the game. Next up, brake calipers. I am surprised by how many premium cars skimp on brake calipers. I know some will partner with the likes of Brembo and so on, but I think to have a really nice colour-coded brake caliper with some kind of writing on it, whether that's the manufacturer's name or the brand, whatever it might be, and for that to be on the front and on the back, just finishes off a car. When you see a premium brand car with cheapo brake calipers, it always just does my head in. This, not so. So we've got really nice color-coded cut. Now, I think the base cars, you can pay extra to have the brakes color-coded in one of three different colors. This being the top spec trim, they've got these lime green calipers and they just look brilliant, and they tie in really nicely with the piping on the seats and the stitch work on the interior. Sometimes it's just the little details, and this one I spotted the day after the car got dropped off, and it's this little triangle just here where the front camera is. But what I like about it is it follows the line, and there aren't really any creases in this car. It's all very smooth and lots of curves, but there's this line that comes down here and it follows down to the bottom of the apex of that triangle and then back up the other side, and it just brings the front together. A little thing, but I love it. The interior is a pretty special place. I'll talk more about it in a little while. When you get in the car, in fact, actually when you look through the window, the standout thing you see is this glass ball just here. And you're like, what's that? Then you start the car and it rotates around and turns into your gear selector. It's a pointless feature, but it's a piece of theatre that happens every time you start the car. When you stop the car, it rolls back the other way. And I absolutely love it. And I didn't think I would, but I don't know what it is. I just think it's really cool. I think it's safe to say over the last couple of years, I've reviewed a few cars and the comments have been very negative about the design. The fact that they kind of all modern day cars look the same. They're all cut from the same cloth. They're all a bit boring and a bit meh. So I think it's quite difficult for a manufacturer to create a car that looks different, that differentiates itself from everybody else. And I think Kia and Hyundai have got such strong design language. What Genesis have done is really interesting because it's a completely different look. If you look at all the cars in the Genesis lineup, they are just very different, but they all have this common theme, and that's smooth, curvaceous lines. And I have to say, I love the styling of this car. I'm going to start off at the front because it's very smooth and very sleek. I guess it's dominated by this kind of twin format lamp with the body colour in between. You've got some cooling grills at the bottom, and I said my favourite little triangle, but it just looks aerodynamic from the start. If you move around the side of the car, now we start to have a bit of a debate as to what kind of car is it? Is it an SUV? Is it a hatch? Is it a crossover? I'm not really sure, and I on purpose haven't looked at what Genesis call it. I guess there's elements of crossover with the this detailing around the wheel arch and then along the sills, and it's not in some cheap plastic. It's in a really nice finish, and it sets itself off really nicely against this body colour. But it gives the car a little bit of a jacked up stance. And then you've got the roof rails at the top. I'm always a fan of those. And then this sleek back end of the car dominated by this kind of little, almost like a sort of ducktail on the back. Now I'm guessing that that's going to compromise rear passenger headroom a little bit, but what it does from the outside, it just makes the car look sleek and cool. And I have to say, it gets some comments. And then you look at the details, this little, almost like a lightning flash here with this silver chrome detailing, the way the rear glass kind of comes up and then comes to a point just here. It's just an interesting car to look at, and it gets pretty good when you get round the back as well. It's got a good looking bum, this car. You've got very similar split lights to the front with the body work in the middle. It ties the rear and the front of the car together really nicely. I love what the Genesis UK press team are doing with the plates. GV60 fun. Boot space wise, it's not the biggest boot in the world, but it's not too small either. It's 435 litres with the rear seats up. You do have some underfloor storage, which isn't massive, but it's certainly enough to kind of get all the myriad of cables and so on that you need with EVs these days. And the good news is there's a front storage area as well, whether you call that a frunk or a fruit, depends on which side of the Atlantic you live. Yeah, it's a well thought out, practical car. Let's jump in the passenger compartment in the back and see just how much rear legroom we've got. Ooh. Well, it was going really well up until now. So I've got this seat is set for me as a driver, and for regular viewers of the channel, apologies for this, but I'm 6'3" and I have a 35-inch inside leg, so I have to have the driver's seat quite a long way back. So that's worst case scenario. But even with that, I've still got room. My knees are just touching this front seat. The challenge I have is I've also got this seat as low down as it will go, because that's my preference from a driving position point of view. And what that means is it's quite difficult for me to get my feet underneath the seat. There's not a great deal of foot room. But for a normal driver, if that was forward a little bit and up a little bit, I'd have ample space in the back. In terms of headroom, I was a little bit worried that the sloping roof from the outside would compromise my headroom, and it really doesn't. I feel like I've got plenty of room. This pan roof has a twin blind, so the blinds come from the front and the rear and they meet in the middle. And I guess that's what's inside here, is that sort of blind mechanism. But what it means is it then folds away and kind of gives me that extra bit of headroom. So that feels just fine. I have to say though, the quality of materials in here, just the quality of interior in general, is exceptional. It's so nice in here. This is the top spec car. It has the top spec trim. You can spec this trim level in the lower entry point cars as well, but it's beautiful. It's Napa leather and Alcantara. The headlining's beautiful. It comes down on all of the pillars. I've got this beautiful piping and contrast stitching. Even if I pull this down, the little leather tab on here has got the lime green stitching on it. It's a phenomenally high quality feel. And then you look at the doors, and even things like the door furniture, the handle on the doors, there's a little cup holder on the door, and it's not just some plastic thing that's been stuck on the door card. It's a lovely sculpted piece of art where you can drop a drink in there. All the buttons and the touch points are all really high quality. I've got a little net down here in a storage area to store stuff. That's the biggest amount of storage area I've seen in the rear of a car, and you get that in the front. I've got a couple of USB ports there to charge my games consoles and so on. It's really nice in here, but if you think the back's good, wait till you see the front. I love that. It kind of moves the steering wheel out of the way of my gangly legs. Now, I said at the beginning of this film that Hyundai created Genesis to have a luxury brand that could go toe-to-toe with Toyota's luxury brand of Lexus, or with any of the German car manufacturers like BMW and Audi and Mercedes. From an interior point of view, I'll tell you now, absolutely they can. This is a better interior than any car I've sat in from any of those manufacturers. It's a very special place in here. In fact, for me, it reminds me more of something that you'd get from Bentley, but with a little bit more class. The choice of materials is top notch. I've mentioned already, this is the top spec trim, so there's Napa leather everywhere on the doors, steering wheel, center console, seats, lots of Alcantara. This contrast between the blue leather and this navy blue Alcantara with this lovely green piping, very special. And then on the dash along here and on the center console here, there's a metal that's got like a textured finish, and that just feels really premium. And then finally, all of the switch gear. My worry was that because it's part of Hyundai, we've talked about it being a shared platform underneath, but what they'd also do is just share all the switch gear and just put a bigger price on it. And that's just not the case at all. For sure, there's a little bit of things in common, but on the whole, the switch gear in here is really high end and just has a lovely feel to it, especially on the doors for the things like your windows and the door opener and so on. Very nice. Let me fire the car up, because the next thing, little gear selector does its thing, so cool. The next thing is the main display. There is clearly a Hyundai family influence here. Even things like just the fonts being used and the layout is very Hyundai. However, again, that's not just a Hyundai infotainment system. It's specific to Genesis. It looks and feels different. I guess it's dominated by this touchscreen here. It doesn't stick too much out of the dash, and it's a very responsive operating system, and you can use it really easily with your finger, and you can navigate through it. It's a comprehensive system. So clearly there's some touchscreen. But in an era where the amount of comment to get about, oh, it's just touchscreen, and having been in a VW just last week that was entirely touchscreen, it is so nice to see this. So this area here is for all of my climate controls. Firstly, I think it's laid out beautifully. You've got a little screen in here showing the seats and the fan speeds and the positioning of the air and all of that kind of stuff. But then you've just got a really nice metal textured button there that I can just push up to get hotter temperature, down to go cooler. I've got some quick cut keys that will shortcut me to certain things on the infotainment system. That's what we want to see in cars. It's just so well laid out. But then finally, so I've got some buttons there. I've got my heated and cooled seats just here. So some proper buttons for that. But then I've also got this jog wheel. And the jog wheel allows me to navigate through the infotainment system without touching it. So again, it's probably an easier thing to use when you're driving. It's what we used to have in cars 10 years ago, and it's come back again. All I would say is this supports phone projection for Apple CarPlay and Android Auto. Those interfaces are designed for a touch interface. So I think if you were using Apple CarPlay, you'd probably be better off using it as touch. I'd think this jog wheel would be a bit of a pain in the bum. But the Genesis system is also designed to be used with a jog wheel. So I really like that very much. You've got a wireless charge mat down here for your phone and plenty of space to store stuff. So far, so good. There are a couple of howevers. And the first one is price. Now, the Genesis GV60 range starts at the base model, which is just a single motor. I think it's got just over 200 horsepower, and that's at around about £54,000 plus options. And arguably, that's probably for many people the one to go for, because you could take the base model, you could spec this lovely interior if you wanted to. It's an expensive option, but let's face it, the inside of a car is so important, because this is the bit you see. You don't see the outside of a car when you spend hours in it. You sit in here, this is what you look at, this is what you touch, and this is what you smell. So arguably that would be the thinking person's choice. This top spec Sport Plus model, let's just talk about the spec of this car. Now, first up, this is a twin motor, 490 horsepower, 700 Newton meter monster. It will do 0 to 60 in 4 seconds. So go up to, maybe not with a Model Y performance, but it's certainly going to be toe-to-toe with most of the performance EVs. But from a price or a cost point of view, this car, the Sport Plus, starts from £66,900. That is pretty punchy, although from a quality point of view, from a build quality point of view, I kind of totally get it. The press car we're in, as most press cars tend to have, has some really nice options, and some of them are pretty costly. There's an innovation pack. I'm not sure exactly what that includes, but that's £2,800. It's got the Bang & Olufsen sound system, which is absolutely amazing. That's just under £1,000. This lovely sunroof is 1,100 quid. So if you add all of that together, the car I'm sat in is £74,855. So you've basically got a £20,000 spread, depending on how you want to spec your car. At £75,000, that's punchy, but quality-wise, I actually think it can carry that price off. The next issue I have is when I got this car delivered, the first time I got in it, it had about 80% of the battery left, which is pretty typical when the cars have been delivered. And it was only showing about 155 miles. And I'm like, well, that can't be right. Now, this car shares the same battery pack as EV6 and Ioniq 5. It's 74 kilowatt hour battery pack. And the WLTP range for the Sport Plus is 289 miles. Now, I've had this car on charge overnight, and I've pulled it out the garage this morning with a full battery, and it's still only showing 189 miles. And it's the summertime and it's warm. And that worries me. Now, if you do the maths based on a 74 kilowatt hour battery pack, in order to hit that WLTP number, you need to be averaging about 3.5 miles per kilowatt hour. And the driving I've done so far, that's kind of where this car is. So part of me isn't worried, because I think if it's driven normally, that WLTP number is achievable. And I think on the lower performance models, the single motor rear wheel drive ones, I think you'd do that all day long. I think the challenge with this particular car, because it's the sporty one, I think it's just been basically thrashed within an inch of its life by every journo that's had it. It's done 7,000 miles, and that 190 miles is based on historical driving data. And if I were to reset that, I'm sure it would be a bigger number. So I think realistically, this car, I think because of the power and performance, I think it's going to be low 200s. I think probably 220 to 230 miles would be there or thereabouts. Now, the counter to that is that because this car shares the same platform as EV6 and Ioniq 5, it has very rapid DC charging. If you can find it, this car will DC charge at up to 238 kilowatts. Now that means you could get a 10 to 80% charge in under 20 minutes. So this car is a perfect volt and bolt car. So yes, the ultimate range isn't as much as many of you would want, but the way that's dealt with is by having very rapid charging. So you literally pull in and you could replenish a couple of 100 miles in just a few minutes. So that's where it sits. So those two things, the price and the range, are likely to be issues for a few of you, I think. So the next thing we need to do is take it for a spin up the road and just see what its driving manners are like and what this performance is like. But from a styling and interior point of view, massive tick for me for the GV60. Okay, let's start the driving bit of this review in comfort mode. So even in comfort mode, the throttle response is pretty sharp. The road comfort and wind noise and so on is really very good. I do have a couple of GoPros on the outside of cameras, and that always kind of throws the road noise just a little bit. But the brake feel is pretty good. Now, I've got 4 levels of regenerative braking. At the moment, I've got it set to the minimum level, so I don't really have any regen at all. I've got little paddles on the back of the steering wheel to adjust that should I wish. In terms of driving position, I've managed to get into a really nice, you can get quite low in the car. You kind of feel like it's got that sort of sporty feel to it. It's got very good visibility, nice rear visibility from the door mirrors and the rear view mirror, and a nice view out of the front through the windscreen. One of the features I do like, I haven't had the need to indicate yet, but when you do indicate, it's got the best feature of any car from a safety point of view that Hyundai have invented, is that you get the side view camera. So the speedo, or the 2 right hand parts of the main instrument binnacle, turn into a little camera so you can see the blind spot behind you. I just think that's such a clever feature. I'm surprised it's not been copied by more manufacturers, if I'm honest. Let's do a quick 0 to 60 test, shall we? Oh, a little bit of, two things there, very cool. First thing, little chirp of wheel spin, and then it was almost like a 2-stage delivery of power. So the first bit, and then it was like a second gear almost. So I've now stepped up into sport mode, and the first thing that happened, which is very cool, is the side bolsters of these seats inflated and just pushed in a little bit into the back, and I've just now got much more support in the seat, certainly in the kind of lower part of my back. I don't feel like I'm going anywhere. And now the throttle response is significantly better, and this car is very rapid indeed. Now, under hard acceleration like that, the front end does get very light. The steering's got a good weight to it, but but it sits back on its haunches and the weight comes off the front end and the steering comes very light. If I just come down on the brakes there, it won't allow you to downshift on the paddles and increase the regenerative braking when you're driving as aggressively as that. There we go, it's just allowed me to turn it down now. The throttle response and power delivery is instant and very, very rapid. As I said, this is just shy of 500 horsepower, but it's the torque figure, 700 Newton meters of torque, four-wheel drive. This is a very rapid car. Brake feels pretty good. Now they're just starting to run out of puff a little bit. I just had the seatbelt pre-tensioner just pull me back into the seat under that heavy braking there, but it started well. But as I started to push a bit harder, the brake, it almost felt like the brake power just lifted off a little bit. I wouldn't use the word brake fade, but I would have liked to have a firmer, more substantial feeling under my right foot. But there is no doubt that this is a rapid car. Now, I guess it's worth maybe talking about rivals to this car. The two obvious ones I've mentioned already, and that's from the same group, EV6 and Ioniq 5. Now, if you want the sporty kind of EV drive, the thing that both of those cars have, and interestingly, I'm driving the EV6 GT, the new facelift version, next week. And that's best part of 600 horsepower. Ioniq 5N is 600 horsepower. Wouldn't it be cool if Genesis took a car that was as good looking as this from the outside and as sporty as this from the outside and dropped the Ioniq 5N gearbox in it? I mean, that would just be mega, because then as I'm accelerating away here, I can get that extra level of engagement and start changing up through the gears. I mean, it's certainly got the performance, and I have to say the ride is really plush. It's firm enough so you don't get loads of body roll, but it's just a really very competent ride, and I like it a lot. Can we get a clear run up the Petrol Ped hill climb? Let's hope so. Here we go. Oh. Now, it's hiding its weight pretty well. The front end's complaining a little bit, but it's just got so much performance and so much torque to pull you out of trouble. It's yeah, it's really very competent, this car. So, safe to say, the GV60 Sport Plus is a quick car. It's certainly not lacking in the performance department. My final thoughts of the car, so interesting. So, first up, it's great to get another new brand on the channel. I'm gonna break it down into three different areas. External styling first up. Honestly, I think it's one of the, for my personal taste, one of the best normal or best looking normal cars I've had on the channel in a while. I really like the styling. I like that sleek, kind of curvaceous design. The wheels, the brake calipers set the car off, make it look sporty, that little ducktail on the back. So from the outside, I love the styling. The interior of this car is a special place to behold. I've done my best to try and get that across on camera, but the only way you can truly appreciate how special it is to get in the car. And Tracy and I went out in the car yesterday, and she's quite a harsh critic of cars, and even she said, this is really nice in here. There are a few things that I think some people might think are a bit much. The spinning glass ball thing, I think it's a really nice quirky feature, a bit of theatre, but I think some people might think it's a bit much, but hey ho, that's personal taste. Performance wise, there's no denying it's a fast car. It's smooth, It's clearly quiet, it's an EV. The ride is excellent, really, really excellent. It does a very clever trick of a smooth, plush ride, but when you're pushing it hard, like I just did up the Petrol Ped hill climb, there's not too much body roll and it just seems to squat down and get on with it. Sometimes under hard acceleration though, the bum squats down, the front goes light, and the steering just gets a little bit light in your hand. I've got worries about the range, but then this is the high performance version, but the maths should bear it out, and I think a couple of 200 to 240 miles I think is where you're at. I don't know what that would be like in the winter. The flip side of that is it supports incredibly high speed charging. So many cars nowadays have poor range and then only do 100 kilowatt DC charging. This is over 200 kilowatts DC charging. I know you've got to find a charger that's that quick, but they are getting more and more common. And then price wise, I actually think the sweet spot for this car is to probably go one of the base models, the entry point models, and just get some nice spec on it, get a nice color, get a nice interior pack, and I think you'll end up with a really good car. And I'd imagine on a lease deal or on a salary sacrifice deal, you probably get some really good deals. It's a Genesis, so it's got excellent warranty, just like you find in the Hyundai group. So you know, the longevity, you can get it serviced at Hyundai garages. It's a really easy car to live with. So I think it's a very, very interesting proposition, and one that has intrigued me. I'm now keen to drive more of the Genesis range. I'd love to drive some of their internal combustion engine cars to see what they're like, because their electric ones are really, really good. Anyway, please let me know what you think of the Genesis GV60. But if you've enjoyed that, please give me a thumbs up. Comments below are always welcome. And if you haven't done so already, please subscribe to Petrol Ped for plenty more content to come. And I'll see you on the next film. You take care, guys. Drive safe.